Hi, everybody, and welcome to Discussion One of English 313 Late Shakespeare. In this week's discussion, we will be talking about the play Hamlet. So, what is Hamlet all about? Long story short, a son named Hamlet seeks revenge for his father's death. A king named Claudius will do whatever he can to stay in power. Both Hamlet and Claudius plot and scheme against each other. Hamlet's obsession with revenge causes him to accidentally kill Ophelia's father, which leads to her deep sorrow and eventual death by drowning. Ophelia's brother Laertes seeks revenge on Hamlet for this. Claudius uses Laertes to poison Hamlet, but to be sure, he puts poison in a goblet as well. And in the end, Gertrude, Hamlet's mother, drinks the goblet by accident and dies. Hamlet finally kills Claudius, and Hamlet eventually dies himself from the poison on Laertes' sword. Essentially, everybody is dead. So if you've read chapter 10 in the textbook, you would have seen some of the discussion questions. For today's discussion, I wanted to focus on just one of them, which is, in the mousetrap scene, Claudius sits through the dumb show that reenacts his murder of old Hamlet. He only becomes agitated when the murder is played a second time during the play proper. Why? Firstly, I wanted to talk about the play itself, and in particular, what is a dumb show? The textbook Shakespeare Early and Late by Paul Budra states that this was a tradition popular in drama from the Middle Ages through the early 16th century. At the beginning of a play, or sometimes before each act, there would be a short, silent pantomime of some action that would act as a sort of theatrical riddle to be solved by watching the subsequent action. In Hamlet, the dumb show is used not as a riddle per se, but as a retelling of how Hamlet's father was killed by Claudius in order for Hamlet to assess Claudius's reaction when he's watching the dumb show. In this case, the dumb show and the play are still connected because the play proper is used to foreshadow or portray fantastical revenge for the murder that took place in the dumb show. So what exactly happens in the play? In the mousetrap, an uncle is murdered by his nephew. Hamlet has been ordered to kill his uncle, so the play is as much a prediction of revenge fantasy as it is a recreation. Now, this is where our discussion question comes into play. Hamlet is watching Claudius during both the dumb show and the play proper. Claudius doesn't get mad about the retelling of old Hamlet dying, but he does get agitated when the nephew gets revenge by killing his uncle. Why? This scene really depends on our interpretation of Claudius and who he is. He is a power-driven king who is willing to kill his own brother in order to gain and maintain power. He manipulates the people around him to further his agenda. However, he's also very smart and strategic. So why does Claudius get upset? My interpretation is that Claudius is not bothered by the idea of killing his brother, but rather the idea of someone successfully murdering him and thus defeating he himself. In addition, Claudius is smart, but it causes him to become paranoid about his safety, which makes him take things a little too far. For example, when he also puts poison in the goblet, which ends up killing Gertrude instead of Hamlet. Therefore, in addition to his pride being bruised, Claudius is also upset by the idea that someone is plotting to kill him and that his safety is in jeopardy. To dive deeper into this question and encourage discussion as a group, I've come up with some further questions to help us more carefully look at Claudius as a character. The first one is, do you agree or disagree with my interpretation of Claudius? What are some examples that prove or disprove my interpretation? And secondly, is Hamlet's scheme to prove his uncle's guilt reliable? Why or why not? That concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.